This is Bible teacher Nelson Walters, and today we're talking about the shocking reason that governments fear Jesus. We're going to be unraveling the real Christmas mystery. Governments fear Jesus, and it has everything to do with Christmas. When you saw the thumbnail, you probably thought this video would be another one about the government's ongoing war on Christmas. But that's not it. This teaching is about Jesus' ongoing war against your government. Because, if you aren't aware, Jesus is returning, but not as a baby this time. It will be as a king. He comes back wearing crowns. Not a single crown, but crowns. Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems. Those are the many crowns. And he has a name written that no one knows but himself. Revelation 19:11-12. The old hymn says, "Crown him with many crowns." He is taking those crowns from someone, from the kings of the earth, the rulers of the nations. Probably, he's going to take one from the ruler of your nation. And Jesus is taking over when he returns. And the first Christmas announced this. So if you wonder why Jesus is hated by secular governments, it's because he will overthrow them. The Bible indicates he will crush them with a rod of iron upon his return. And their puny little efforts now to legislate against him, they only make him laugh. Why do the nations rage and the people plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, that's the Messiah, saying, "Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us." He who sits in heaven laughs, the Lord holds them in derision. Psalm 2, 1-4. Now I know that in a lot of teachings on this channel, we tend to look at the short-term impact of what the globalists are doing currently in this world to empower themselves through global organizations like the World Health Organization, World Bank, World Economic Forum. And in the short term, these organizations will win. The Bible tells us so. We will own nothing and they will be happy. But we need to focus on what Jesus is going to do to them in what will also be a very short time. Everything we see now is going to be swept away when the king comes back. And this all started at Christmas. And we sing about it every Christmas, even if you don't realize it. Unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given. We sing those lines. In the Christmas passage of Revelation 12:5, these two epithets are given. She gave birth to a child, a son. Child is born, son is given. Identifying it with this passage in Isaiah 9:6. John is telling us it is this same person, the Messiah, that he's writing about. But let's look at the rest of that famous passage in Isaiah 9:6. And the government shall be on his shoulder. The government, the world government, is going to rest on Jesus' shoulders. How many churches are going to preach on this topic during this Christmas season? Or at least preach it rightly. The government part always gets glossed over, it seems, when it is really a key factor in what Jesus is going to do. He is going to take over the government of the world. If you wonder why they hate Christmas and oppose it in the media, this is a big reason. Because Jesus is a threat. Every Christmas is a reminder of that threat. So what does it mean that the government is on his shoulders? The rank of King of Kings will be on his shoulders, just like generals wear their rank on their shoulders. And Jesus will carry the weight of that government for the good of all people, like a yoke on his shoulders. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. The rest of that passage describes Jesus. What kind of leader is he going to be? He will be a wonderful counselor, ruling in wisdom and justice. He will rule as a mighty God. Nothing that he can't do, And for those who say the Bible doesn't call Jesus God, this is only one of many places where it does. He will rule as a loving, everlasting Father, not as a self-serving politician, and he will be the Prince of Peace, which is more than physical peace, it's shalom, perfect rightness between God and man and the world. And all of these are the attributes of a perfect leader. That's what the world got with this Messiah. And his first task was dying as a perfect substitute for us on the cross to save us, his children. But that is not the end. Let's keep looking at Isaiah. Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and righteousness. From this time forth and forevermore, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Like I said, we read this every year, but do we really talk about what it means? What is interesting in this passage is Jesus will eventually sit on David's throne. Many pastors mistakenly think he's sitting there now. He isn't. He's sitting instead on his Father's throne in heaven. Revelation 3:21 spells this out clearly. The one who overcomes, I will grant to him to sit with me on my throne, just as I sat down with my Father on his throne. So Jesus is my king. But it's really only spiritually. He's ruling me and hopefully you from heaven, seated on his Father's throne where he has all authority. It's been given to him over heaven and earth, but he is not ruling the earth physically yet. That explains the mess that we have in this world. Satan and those who listen to him are currently reigning in the halls of government, but that is going to change. And it changes at the seventh trumpet. Then the seventh angel blew his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdom of the world has become, present time at that time, the kingdom of the Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Revelation 11:15. So Jesus is king, my king, hopefully your king, but he does not yet wear the diadem crowns of the world that he receives probably at the seventh trumpet. But when he returns on that white horse, as we talked about at the beginning of this teaching, he wears multiple diadem crowns. These are the crowns of the kings of the earth after he dethrones them. Now, let's go back to Christmas again. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem, all of this was set in motion. Isaiah 9:6-7, that had just been a prophecy for hundreds of years, but it became real when Jesus was born, and not surprisingly, the government reacted. You remember the story, I bet you do. When King Herod heard the news that the new king, the Messiah, the king of the whole world, was born, he wanted to eliminate that threat. Now when the Magi, had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, rise and take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. And he rose and took the child and his mother by night and departed to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. Jesus' birth was an invasion, a tiny invasion of one baby, and yet the government knew it. They knew he was a threat. We view Herod today as a crazy, maniacal king, but he understood the threat Jesus was to his government better than most Christians do today. So as Herod was gathering his soldiers, God warned Jesus' earthly parents, and they escaped. But as you probably know, the other babies of Bethlehem in that region did not escape the government, because Herod, he didn't know which one of these children was the Messiah, so he had them all eliminated. Innocent babies, innocent children. Is there an end-time application to this? Yes. God is going to issue a warning, and some Christians will flee to safety, but most are going to be eliminated by their government. How will Jesus react to that? He will be mad. And that aspect of the Christmas story gets so rarely presented at our midnight carol singing. Now, it is found in the song A Coventry Carol, but that's all, and that one never gets sung. Yet, it is a super important part of what the birth of Messiah was all about. The birth was a coup d'etat. His birth put the wicked governments of the world on notice, and the wicked spiritual leaders, Satan and his fallen angels, they got put on notice too. And they reacted at that time. And they have in many ways reacted against the children of God ever since. In Revelation 6, all those martyred since the beginning cry out, "How long, O Lord, before you avenge us on the wicked of this world?" What does God say? God tells them to rest a while until his plan is completed. That's a very important point. God is waiting for something very important. What is that plan? In 2 Peter 3, 9 through 10, it's outlined like this. The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient toward you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. This is God's end-time plan, that everyone who will be saved is saved. Everyone who accepts Jesus' substitutionary death on the cross. He doesn't want to leave anyone like that behind. But when they are all saved, then Jesus is going to drop the hammer on those who won't repent. Because he's God. He knows who these people are. He knows their hearts. He knows that no matter what he does, what he says, what signs happen, they're not repenting. And when he returns, the kings and the government officials are going to hide in the bunkers that they've made for themselves. But here's what Psalm 110 has to say Jesus does then. The Lord is at your right hand, and he will shatter kings on the day of his wrath. He will execute judgment among the nations, filling them with corpses. He will shatter chiefs over the wide earth. Psalm 110, 5 through 6. All the nations who have mistreated, censored, imprisoned, martyred, tortured, raped God's children are going to be eliminated. And Jesus will reign in their place in complete justice and righteousness. That is the implication of the birth of Jesus. That is a big part of the Christmas story. The implication is the end of corrupt government and corrupt politicians. The end of people who have mistreated Christians and others for generations. And that is why they frequently oppose us, censor us, persecute us. And the closer we get to the return of Jesus, the worse it will get. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and all nations will hate you for my name's sake. Matthew 24:9. That includes your nation. So if you're thinking you can protect yourself by voting in a new politician, don't count on it. All nations will hate you because you carry the name of Christ. But those governments, they're about to fall. And then perfect peace and righteousness is going to reign. It is what every Christian on earth wants and is waiting for. The cross and the second coming. Those are the real implications of the birth of Messiah, to free us from Satan and death and from the secular governments. And as our governments become more tyrannical, this is what we need to focus our minds on: our returning King. Okay, you might say, if this was true, why was Jesus' birth so humble? Because look at where he was born, in a stable, right? No, not exactly. Click right here to keep watching and learn the amazing location where the manger was, as foretold in the Old Testament. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.